Gemini, an energy of attraction will surround you this week. Use it wisely. There's something unusual stirring in your field right now, an invisible shimmer of energy gathering like a soft storm behind your smile. Have you felt it? That subtle sense that the world is beginning to respond to your presence differently, as though life itself is leaning in to hear what you'll say next. This isn't a coincidence. What's approaching is not merely a moment of chance. It's a magnetic alignment, and you are the nucleus for a sign ruled by Mercury. Communication has always been your superpower, but this week, something deeper begins to take shape. The way you speak, move, and even think will radiate a frequency that draws people in, not for show, but for soul. You're not just becoming magnetic. You're becoming mirror and magnet both, reflecting truths and attracting possibilities in ways that could redefine how you relate to the world. But, dear Gemini, with great magnetism comes great responsibility. What you focus on will multiply. What you invite in will stay longer than expected. The question is, are you ready to use this gift wisely, or will you let it scatter into distractions that dilute your magic? Before we begin, take a breath, feel your pulse. Know that this message found you for a reason. If your heart stirs as you listen, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this moment with someone else who needs to awaken to their own magnetism. Your week of conscious attraction begins now. Gate 1, the magnetic field of Gemini, awakening the power that was always there. Gemini, you've often been told that your mind is your greatest strength, and it is. Your ability to move between perspectives, connect seemingly unrelated ideas, and articulate nuance with ease is truly a marvel. But what many don't realize, perhaps even you, is that beneath the cleverness in the words lies a quiet but potent magnetic field. One that doesn't just attract thoughts, but people, not just opportunities, but energy. This week, that field begins to glow with a rare intensity. This energy doesn't come from pretending to be someone you're not. It doesn't arise from external validation, aesthetic upgrades, or loud declarations of purpose. It is born in the stillness between your thoughts, in the moments when you finally allow yourself to feel rather than figure out. This field, this magnetic pulse, is a direct reflection of how aligned you are with your truth. You may ask, but what truth? Gemini, for so long you've tried to be everything for everyone. You've adjusted your words, held back your feelings, second-guessed your instincts, all because somewhere along the way, someone taught you that your changeability made you unreliable. But what if I told you that your duality is not a flaw? It's your compass. Your truth lives not in choosing one version of yourself and discarding the rest, but in learning to honor both the thinker and the feeler, the lighthearted and the deep-diving, the seeker and the sage. This week, your magnetism awakens when you stop trying to prove your worth and start living from your center. That means slowing down just enough to listen, not only to others, but to your own nervous system. Have you noticed your body tightening around certain people? Or how your breath changes in rooms that feel misaligned? That's your intuition communicating in its most ancient language. And the more you heed it, the stronger your magnetic field becomes. Think of someone you've met who didn't try to be impressive, but somehow they were unforgettable, not because they were loud, but because they were present. That's the power you're stepping into now. People will feel it before they understand it. Some will lean in, some will retreat, and both responses are sacred, because magnetism, when pure, also acts as a filter. A real-life example. Consider a Gemini woman named Alina, a client of mine. For years, Alina worked in public relations, always surrounded by people, always on. But behind her bright exterior, she often felt invisible, like no one truly saw her, only the version of her they wanted to believe in. One week, after a deep session where she reconnected with an old dream she had dismissed, becoming a poet, Alina made a subtle shift. She didn't quit her job or change her wardrobe. She simply began writing again, quietly, joyfully, in alignment with her inner compass. That same week, she received 3 unexpected invitations. One to speak at Creative Retreat, another to collaborate on a book project, and a third to meet someone who would later become a deep emotional partner. None of these things came because she networked harder. They came because her energy became congruent. The hidden parts of her came into the light, And the universe responded, not with chaos, but with precision. Gemini, the same is possible for you now. And the beauty of it? You don't need to force anything. When you're in alignment, the right people, opportunities, and timing will rise to meet you. Your only task is to stay in your lane, your real lane, not the one others pave for you, not the one you think you should walk, but the one that whispers to you in the quiet moments when you're not performing for the world. Now, here's the catch. This magnetic field is sensitive. It reflects your emotional and mental hygiene. If your inner dialogue is laced with judgment or fear, that's what you emit, no matter how beautiful your words are. But when your inner world is grounded in clarity, even if it's vulnerable or uncertain, it becomes a beacon of realness. And realness is rare. Realness is magnetic. You may notice this week that people approach you with unusual vulnerability. Strangers may open up about things they've never told anyone. Friends may seek your presence more often. Clients or colleagues may suddenly value your perspective with new respect. And you might be tempted to question, why now? But the truth is, this has always been inside you. The difference is that you're finally open enough to let it shine through. Attraction isn't always about gaining something. Sometimes it's about clarity, finally seeing what isn't meant for you and releasing it with grace. Because as your magnetism grows, so will your sensitivity. You'll feel more, notice more, know more. And while that can be overwhelming at first, it's also your greatest protection. You don't need to overthink every interaction or analyze every signal. Just feel into it. Your body knows. Your energy knows. So what should you do practically this week? Start each day with intention, not just a to-do list, but an energetic check-in. What frequency do you want to radiate today? Peace? Curiosity? Confidence? Choose it and embody it, even before your first word. And be mindful of what you consume. Social media, news, conversations. Everything you let into your field becomes part of what you emanate. And each day with reflection. Ask yourself gently, did I stay true to myself today? What drained me? What lit me up? What did I attract that surprised me? These small daily rituals will not only strengthen your awareness, they will help you fine-tune the signal you're sending into the world. Gemini, this week you're not just a communicator. You are a transmitter, and what you transmit will be echoed back to you in undeniable ways. Choose your frequency with intention. You are no longer just speaking words. You are casting spells with your presence. Gate 2, you attract what you amplify, the mirror of your focus. Gemini, now that your magnetic field is awakened, it's time to understand its most sacred law. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you amplify. This truth, simple yet profound, holds the power to transform the entire direction of your life if you choose to live it consciously. You've always been curious by nature, drawn to 1,000 different things at once. Ideas, conversations, paths not yet taken. Your mind, quick and luminous, lights up like a constellation when something excites you. But here's the gentle reminder. Wherever you place your sustained attention, you're not just observing, you're feeding, you're energizing. You're sending out a signal that echoes far beyond your conscious thought. This week, more than any other, your thoughts and emotions will begin to manifest more tangibly. You'll notice that the situations you dwell on start to shape your outer world. If you focus on frustrations, you'll attract more people and events that echo that tension. But if you gently redirect your awareness toward expansion, joy, and connection, even amid chaos, life begins to shift in your favor almost as if by magic. This isn't wishful thinking. It's energetic mechanics. Imagine your focus as a camera lens. If it zooms in on what's lacking, everything else blurs into the background. But if you expand the frame, you begin to see blessings where you once saw voids. Take, for example, Noah, another Gemini soul I once worked with. He was caught in a loop, relationships that drained him, job that bored him, conversations that felt empty. He believed his life was stagnant because he was unlucky. But in truth, Noah spent most of his energy worrying about what would go wrong, scanning constantly for signs of betrayal or disappointment. And that's exactly what his field attracted. Proof of his worst fears, replayed on a loop. During our sessions, I asked him to do something simple but radical. Each morning, write down one thing he was excited to experience, even if it was small. It could be a meaningful conversation, a quiet walk, a creative breakthrough. Slowly, he began to shift his gaze toward what nourished him rather than what depleted him. Within weeks, things started changing. New connections emerged, genuine, soul-stirring ones. His job began to feel lighter. Even his posture changed. He no longer braced for impact. He welcomed life. This is what happens when you shift the amplifier of your inner radio. Gemini, with Mercury as your ruling planet, you are not just a thinker. You're a transmitter of frequencies. Your thoughts are spells. Your words are vibrations. Your attention is a form of energetic currency. And this week, your energetic spending will return to you with interest. Let's look closer. What are you amplifying today? Anxiety or possibility? Frustration or curiosity? Comparison or self-celebration? Every time you ruminate on a problem, you reinforce its architecture in your reality. Every time you celebrate something, no matter how small, you reinforce its presence and invite more of it into your orbit. This doesn't mean you should bypass your struggles. Gemini, your growth has never been about pretending everything's fine. It's about choosing which seeds to water. If something hurts, honor it, but don't let it monopolize your field. Don't build shrines to your pain and call it realism. Build bridges instead, bridges made of intention, focus, and elevated vision. Now let's get practical. This week, carve out 10 minutes each morning for energetic intention setting. Ask yourself, what do I choose to amplify today? What emotional frequency do I want to carry into each room I enter? Where does my attention naturally drift, and how can I lovingly redirect it? And as you move through the day, observe your thoughts like clouds. Don't grip them. Don't argue with them. Just notice. I'm replaying that fear again. Then gently come back. Choose again. Redirect. Remember, Gemini, you are not your thoughts. You are the thinker behind the thoughts. And that thinker has a choice. Another client of mine, Celeste, once said something that still echoes in my heart. She said, when I stopped focusing on proving I was lovable and started focusing on loving myself visibly, everything changed. That's the essence of this gate. You amplify the frequency of your inner world. You invite in what you rehearse emotionally. If you rehearse boundaries, you'll attract respect. If you rehearse gratitude, you'll attract gifts. If you rehearse ease, you'll attract flow. And if you rehearse tension, resentment, or fear, you'll attract people and experiences that mirror those exact vibrations. This week, even chance encounters will not be random. That person you meet on the train, the stranger who smiles just when you're feeling low, the conversation that opens a door you didn't know existed. These are all reflections of your amplified inner state. You may feel surprised by how quickly things manifest, as if your desires have a shorter runway. This is the power of energetic clarity. When your focus is clean, the universe doesn't hesitate. But here's a loving caution. Just as your dreams will accelerate, so will your distractions. You may be tempted by people who flatter, but don't feed your soul. By opportunities that look good, but feel off. By urgency disguised as importance. That's why discernment is key. How do you know what to amplify and what to release? Tune into your body. Does this connection make your chest expand or contract? Do you feel more like yourself or less? When you speak your truth, does your voice tremble from fear or resonate from alignment? You don't need to understand everything with your mind. Your body knows. Your spirit knows. And this week, they'll be speaking louder than usual. If you're willing to listen, Gemini, you're not just attracting experiences now. You're broadcasting your blueprint. The clearer your focus, the more precise the return. Use this week to become a master of your inner narrative. Tell stories that uplift. Enter rooms with energy that heals. Look at your life not through the lens of what's missing, but through the quiet abundance that's always been humming underneath the noise. The universe is listening. What frequency are you broadcasting? Gate 3. Attraction is alchemy. How magnetic energy transforms your relationships and reality. Gemini, you felt the pulse shift, haven't you? the way people linger a little longer in your presence, the way unexpected opportunities seem to find their way to you without much effort. This is not simply about being noticed. It's about being felt, seen in your essence. The magnetic energy you're radiating now is not just drawing people toward you. It's inviting transformation on a deeper level, both within you and in the spaces you occupy. This is the secret alchemy of attraction. It doesn't just bring things in, it elevates them, refines them, transforms the very fabric of your life. Think of it like this. When you radiate from a place of deep inner truth, everything around you begins to rearrange itself in harmony with that truth. People who were once indifferent may now soften. Conversations that used to drain you may take on surprising depth. And some relationships may even begin to dissolve, not because you did anything wrong, but because your frequency no longer matches theirs. It's not always comfortable, but it's honest. This is why it's so essential to be present, not just to what you're attracting, but to what you're transforming. Your magnetic presence acts like a tuning fork, calling everything around you to rise or fall, to match your resonance. You don't need to force anything. You simply need to observe what rises with you and what quietly falls away. Let me tell you about Nadia, a Gemini client who experienced this kind of alchemical shift. For years, she had tolerated a relationship that felt emotionally lopsided. She loved deeply, but often felt unseen. The more she tried to be easier, the more invisible she became. During a period when she began to explore her creative self, painting, meditating, writing, something changed. She didn't announce anything dramatic. She simply began living from her center again. And then the shift came. Her partner grew distant. Not because she'd done anything wrong, but because the version of her that tolerated half-love was no longer leading. And that energetic departure made room for a deeper connection. First with herself, then later, with someone new who met her on every level. Mentally, emotionally, spiritually. This is the kind of clearing the energy of attraction can bring. It's not always about addition. Often, it's about purification. Gemini, you are not meant to be a container for others' projections. You are meant to be a mirror that reflects their truth while standing firmly in your own. This week, your relationships may undergo subtle but powerful shifts. Someone you've long tolerated may begin to feel out of sync. A person you never expected may suddenly feel incredibly resonant. New conversations might emerge that crack open old, stale dynamics. And if you allow them, they will liberate you. But remember, the transformation doesn't start with them. It starts with how you relate to yourself. You are learning to attract not from a place of needing to be chosen, but from a place of choosing yourself first. This is the real alchemy. You are no longer drawing experiences to validate your worth. You are becoming the validation itself. You walk into the room already complete, already vibrating, already magnetic. This shift changes how people respond to you. Some will be drawn in, awakened by your presence. Others may resist, uncomfortable with the clarity of your energy. Don't chase the ones who pull away. Don't dim to make others comfortable. Let your light do its work. Trust that it is speaking louder than any words ever could. Gemini, the duality within you gives you a unique gift, the ability to hold paradox. You can be both soft and strong, mysterious and transparent, expressive and introspective. And this week, your magnetism grows not when you pick one side, but when you allow them to exist in harmony, when you stop apologizing for your depth or your changeability, when you stop over-explaining your boundaries, when you stop trying to prove that you're enough. You already are, and people will feel that. That's the magnetism that elevates. Not just you, but everyone around you. You may notice this especially in your close connections. Friendships, family ties, romantic bonds. Conversations will go deeper, or they will disappear. There will be less middle ground. That's not a loss, it's clarity. And clarity is liberation. If someone is meant to journey with you, they will rise with you. They will meet your gaze without flinching. They will not shrink from your intensity, but expand beside it. Let's get practical again. This week, I invite you to engage in a sacred practice I call energetic mirror work. Every evening, Take 5 minutes to sit with yourself and ask, who did I attract today and why? Which interaction elevated me and which one drained me? Where did I abandon myself, even subtly? Where did I honor myself fully? Write these answers down. Patterns will emerge. The universe is showing you, day by day, what you are magnetizing based on your inner state. Use this awareness not to shame yourself, but to refine your frequency, to become more deliberate in your presence. One of the most overlooked truths about magnetism is this. It's not just a personal gift. It's a relational responsibility. When you become magnetic, you become influential. People listen differently. Follow your lead. Echo your energy. So be intentional with your impact. Use your presence to uplift, not manipulate. Use your words to open, not control. You are not here to impress. You're here to inspire. And your inspiration, Gemini, will come not from trying to be anything other than your fullest, most integrated self. Let your duality be your medicine. Let your curiosity be your guide. Let your energy cleanse, attract, and transform not just your world, but the world of those around you. You're not just in a magnetic week. You're in a sacred turning point. And what you do with this energy will echo far beyond these next 7 days. Gate 4, magnetic purification. Letting go so you can let in. Gemini, by now you've begun to see it. How your energy is not just calling new experiences toward you, but also revealing what can no longer stay. The universe isn't just giving you gifts, it's cleaning house. The energy of attraction, when awakened, always comes with a side effect that few talk about: purification. To attract what is meant for you, you must release what isn't. To step into your future, you must gently thank and part ways with your past. And this is where the true test of magnetism lies, not in gaining, but in letting go. We often think attraction is about more attention, more opportunities, more love, more momentum. But you, dear Gemini, are being asked to master the sacred art of energetic subtraction. And this is not easy for you. As someone ruled by Mercury, your mind constantly seeks more stimulation, more variety, more meaning. You are curious, and you are capable of holding many versions of reality at once. But this week, your power will come from what you choose to not hold anymore. Energetic clutter is invisible but deeply impactful. It shows up as relationships that no longer nourish you, habits that silently drain you, ideas you've outgrown, and fears that disguise themselves as logic. And when your field is filled with these stagnant energies, your magnetism becomes cloudy. Your signal gets mixed. You begin to attract chaos not because you're unlucky, but because your vibration is sending too many conflicting messages. So, how do we clean this field? The process begins with radical honesty. Ask yourself, not with judgment, but with tenderness, what am I still clinging to that no longer serves me? What patterns keep looping not because I want them, but because I haven't released them? Which parts of me are asking to be heard, healed, or finally laid to rest? For example, I once worked with a Gemini man named Theo who struggled with a cycle of attracting unavailable people. He was magnetic, witty, radiant, full of insight, but again and again, his heart got entangled with those who couldn't meet him emotionally. When we explored deeper, we discovered that Theo's magnetism was tangled with an old story. That love had to be chased, earned, or proven. That belief was a hidden code in his field, and it attracted people who mirrored that lesson back to him. The moment Theo consciously released that narrative, truly saw it, thanked it, and let it dissolve, his entire field shifted. Within 2 months, he met someone who saw him clearly, loved him without drama, and honored his wholeness. It wasn't magic. It was magnetic purification. Gemini, you are being asked to do the same now. Start with your space. Physical clutter reflects energetic indecision. What's lingering in your environment that feels like a version of you from another time? The books you no longer resonate with. The photos that pull you into stories you've outgrown. The clothes that don't carry your current frequency. Begin with what you can touch, and you'll notice your inner world responding in kind. Then move into the realm of relationships. Who in your life expands you and who contracts you? This isn't about blame. Some people are simply not aligned with your path anymore. Their chapter in your story may be closing, and that's okay. Let it close gracefully. You don't need to burn bridges. but you do need to stop building them alone. And finally, tend to your thoughts. You can't attract a new reality with the same old beliefs. What do you tell yourself when no one's listening? That you're too much? Too messy? Too inconsistent? Gemini, your power has never been in being one thing. Your gift is in your adaptability, your brilliance, your unpredictability. But to truly attract what is meant for you, you must stop apologizing for your range. This week is the perfect time to do what I call an energetic chord review. Each evening, visualize your body surrounded by light. Imagine chords connecting you to people, ideas, commitments, or emotions. Then ask yourself, which of these chords feel vibrant and alive, and which feel heavy or dim? One by one, you can gently release the chords that no longer serve you. No blame, no fear, just space. Space is not emptiness, it's readiness. When you clear the stagnant, the new arrives without force. The universe doesn't send gifts into cluttered homes. It waits for an invitation, and clearing is that invitation. Here's something else to keep in mind, Gemini. Sometimes what needs to be released is not a person, but a part of yourself. A role you played to be accepted, a mask you wore to survive, a dream that once mattered but no longer does. You are allowed to evolve. You are allowed to change directions. You are allowed to say, this no longer reflects me. That is not failure. That is freedom. And when you give yourself that permission, your magnetic field sharpens. It becomes clearer, cleaner, and more aligned. And suddenly, people show up who are speaking the same energetic language. Situations arise that match your deepest yes. Not because you chase them, but because you created the space for them to find you. Gemini, one of the greatest gifts you can offer yourself this week is the courage to release with love. Let go without needing to justify. Purify without guilt. Honor your evolution without needing others to understand it. The more you release what weighs you down, the more your essence will rise. And as your essence rises, so does your field. And as your field expands, your life reshapes itself to meet you at your new level. This is magnetic purification. This is sacred release. This is attraction not just as a force, but as a filter, a refinement, a recalibration. Are you willing to make space for the life that's trying to meet you? Are you ready to become a clearer channel for your own expansion? Then exhale, release, trust. The next chapter is already knocking. Gate 5, becoming the magnet. Living as the source, not the seeker. Gemini, you release, you refined, and now you rise. What began as a subtle shift in your energetic field has become something far greater. This week, you're not simply using attraction, you're becoming it. There's a difference, and it changes everything. Attraction, in its purest form, is not something you try to achieve. It's something you embody. It's the natural rhythm that flows from you when you are aligned, clear, and unafraid to be exactly who you are. The paradox is this. When you stop chasing, you start drawing. When you stop striving, you begin receiving. When you stop seeking approval, you become the lighthouse others seek. This is what it means to live as a magnet, Gemini, not as someone constantly adjusting the world, but as someone so in tune with their own frequency that the world rearranges itself in response to your vibration. This week, you will likely notice a new kind of attention, not the kind you're used to when you perform, charmed, or try to be liked. This attention feels quieter, but deeper, more respectful. It comes from people who see your essence, not just your surface, who are drawn not to your noise, but to your stillness. And more importantly, you'll find yourself no longer needing it. This is one of the signs you've crossed a threshold. The craving for external validation fades, and in its place, something sacred arises, inner anchoring. Let me tell you about Ray, another Gemini client who embodied this. Ray had spent years curating a life that looked magnetic on the outside. Constant movement, social praise, creative output. But inside, she was unmoored. Everything she attracted was beautiful, but temporary, bright but shallow. She told me, I feel like I'm collecting glitter, not gold. Her turning point came when she began treating herself as the source, not the seeker. She stopped networking for validation and started connecting with intention. She stopped dating for comfort and began listening to her own loneliness. She stopped performing brilliance and began living it from the inside out. The shift was imperceptible to the outside world, but unmistakable to her soul. And soon, her outer world caught up. Collaborations flowed. A deep partnership emerged. Her home, once chaotic, began to feel sacred. She became a magnet, not by doing more, but by being more of herself. Gemini, this is your invitation now. To live not as someone waiting to be chosen, but as someone who has already chosen themselves, fully, fearlessly, and without needing applause. The truth is, people can feel it when you're grounded in yourself. They may not be able to name it, but they'll feel drawn to it, inspired by it, even healed by it. This is not charisma. This is coherence. You see, the most magnetic people aren't always the loudest, the most beautiful, or the most popular. They are the ones whose energy matches their truth. They walk into a room and bring clarity with them. They speak with presence, not pretense. They move with intention, not insecurity. And you, Gemini, have everything within you to become that person. Not temporarily, but consistently. So how do you live this way? First, keep tending your internal space. This week may be full of external stimulation, people noticing you, invitations coming in, surprises unfolding. But none of it matters unless your inner landscape is rooted. Begin each day by returning to your center. Sit in stillness, journal, walk, speak aloud your truth, even if your voice shakes. The world responds to the version of you that's clear. Second, create before you consume. This is crucial. You are a natural absorber of information. Gemini, social media, conversations, ideas. But now, your power comes from what originates within you. Each morning, even before opening your phone, create something, a sentence, a sketch, a moment of breath. Let life flow from you before you let it flow into you. This keeps your magnetism fresh and authentic, not reactive or diluted. Third, know the difference between attraction and attachment. Just because something comes to you doesn't mean it's meant to stay. Just because someone is drawn to your light doesn't mean they can walk beside you in it. Your discernment is your crown. Trust it. Fourth, protect your glow. Not everyone will understand this version of you. Some may try to pull you back into older patterns, not out of malice, but because they don't know how to relate to your new frequency. That's okay. You don't need to convince anyone of your growth. You simply need to embody it. And finally, lead with your soul, not your strategy. Your mind is brilliant, Gemini, no doubt. But your magnetism comes not from calculation, but from courage. Let your choices be led by what feels sacred, not what looks smart. Let your path unfold from trust, not control. Let your presence speak what words never could. The energy you've cultivated this week doesn't end when the week ends. It's not a trend. It's a transformation. And the more you live as a source, the more effortless everything else becomes. So, Gemini, are you ready to walk as a magnet? Are you ready to attract not just what shines, but what resonates? Then step forward, not with force, but with faith. Let your breath be your rhythm. Let your truth be your guide. Let your presence be your prayer. Because the world doesn't just need your wit or your brilliance. It needs your being. Conclusion: this is just the beginning of your magnetic life. Gemini, if you've made it this far, take a moment. Gently place your hand on your heart and let your breath deepen. You didn't just receive a message, you experienced a homecoming. This week was never about simply becoming attractive to the world. It was about remembering that you already are. It was about waking up to the truth that the energy you emit holds the power to call forth new realities. Not because you chase them, but because you align with them. You've walked through the gates, from recognizing your magnetic field, to understanding the sacred responsibility of your focus, to observing the transformation of your relationships, to releasing the energetic noise that once diluted your brilliance, and finally, to stepping into a version of you who knows that being magnetic is not something you perform, but something you are. And now you are changed, not because the world around you suddenly became different, but because you did. Remember this: your magnetism is not a one-week wonder. It is your natural rhythm when you are honest with yourself, when you move from clarity, when you rest in your own enoughness. Some days will flow, others will challenge you to anchor deeper. But no matter what arises, you've seen what's possible, and you cannot unsee it. So carry this with you. You are the invitation. You are the mirror. You are the source. And the more you choose to live from that sacred knowing, the more you will draw toward you everything meant to meet you at your frequency. People, opportunities, love, peace, joy. The version of life that once felt far away, it's here now. It's within reach. And as always, Gemini, I would love to hear from you. What part of this journey resonated most deeply? What are you now ready to attract with grace, courage, and clarity? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Your voice matters, and it may be the light someone else needs to hear today.